chancing on that delightful phrase. Well, I am not like that young man you told me of when we were down at Marlow together. The young man who used to say that yellow satin could console one for all the miseries of life. I love beautiful things that one can touch and handle: old brocades, green bronzes, lacquer work, carved ivories, exquisite surroundings, luxury, pomp. There is much to be got from all these, but the artistic temperament that they create, or at any rate reveal, is still more to me. To become the spectator of one's own life, as Harry says, is to escape the suffering of life. You know you are surprised at my... Sorry. I know you are surprised at my talking to you like this. You have not realized how I have developed. I was a schoolboy when you knew me. I am a man now. New passions, new thoughts, new ideas. I am different, but you must not like me less. I am changed, but you must always be my friend. Pause. All right, this is a really important bit. Highlight this if you got a book. There is much to be got from all of these, but the artistic temperament that they create, or at any rate reveal, is still more to me. To become the spectator of one's own life, as Harry says, is to escape the suffering of life. There it is, in black and white. What Dorian has to say about why he surrounds himself with art. I mean, the whole thing is about him looking at a picture. He's a spectator of his own soul, and therefore he escapes the conscience. He escapes the troubles that come with doing negative things. He has no guilt because he doesn't feel it. It's put on the painting. He's a spectator of his own life on a literal level, but he's trying to figuratively do it through his own surroundings. An onyx paved bathroom, a silver toilet set, all of this pomp and circumstance, lacquers, brocades, ivories, exquisite surroundings, luxury, pomp. It makes him feel like a work of art. And then everything is just part of the plot. In fact, I'm going to pause and go on a bit of a tangent here. There's this thing called protagonist syndrome that's been identified by psychologists. It wasn't known back then, but the idea is that there are people who become so focused on themselves and so selfish and so narcissistic that they view their own life as a story and themselves as a protagonist, which means that they think of everybody else as side characters, as extras. And it's impossible for them to commiserate or feel the emotions of other people, sort of like being a sociopath or something like that. Is that what's going on here with Dorian? Is that what he's trying to cultivate under Lord Henry's influence? I don't know, but clearly there's some interesting stuff going on here. Let's see. You must not like me less. I am changed, but you must always be my friend. Of course I am very fond of Harry, but I know you are better than he is. You are not stronger. You are too much afraid of life, but you are better. That's an important line, too. If Basil is God or angelic and Lord Henry is satanic. And how happy we used to be together. Don't leave me, Basil, and don't quarrel with me. I am what I am. There is nothing more to be said. That's a biblical allusion. I am what I am. God says that in Genesis. The painter felt strangely moved. The lad was infinitely dear to him, and his personality had been the great turning point in his art. He could not bear the idea of reproaching him anymore. After all, his indifference was probably merely a mood that would pass away. There's that romanticism again. There was so much in him that was good, so much in him that was noble. There's those words, purity, good, noble. Basil's still seeing him for his outer appearance. And wishing that his inner appearance was the same, but you can't see the soul. You can only see what goes on the outside. Well, Dorian, he said at length with a sad smile, I won't speak to you again about this horrible thing after today. I only trust your name won't be mentioned in connection with it. The inquest is to take place this afternoon. Have they summoned you? Dorian shook his head, and a look of annoyance passed over his face at the mention of the word inquest. There was something so crude and vulgar about everything of the kind. They don't know my name, he answered. But surely she did. Only my Christian name, and that I am quite sure she never mentioned to anyone. She told me once that they were all rather curious to learn who I was, and that she invariably told them my name was Prince Charming. It was pretty of her. You must do me a drawing of Sybil, Basil. I should like to have something more of her than the memory of a few kisses and some broken, pathetic words. Look at the way he talks about her. I will try and do something, Dorian, if it would please you. But you must come and sit to me yourself again. I can't get on without you. I can never sit to you again, Basil. It is impossible, he exclaimed, starting back. The painter stared at him. My dear boy, what nonsense, he cried. Do you mean to say that you don't like what I did of you? Where is it? Why have you pulled a screen in front of it? Let me look at it. It is the best thing I have ever done. Do take the screen away, Dorian. It is simply disgraceful of your servant hiding my work like that. I felt the room looked different as I came in. So he wants to see the picture. Dun, dun, dun. My servant has nothing to do with it, Basil. You don't imagine I let him arrange my room for me. He settles my flowers for me sometimes, that is all. No, I did it myself. The light was too strong on the portrait. Too strong? Impossible, my dear fellow. It is an admirable place for it. Let me see it. And Hallward walked toward the corner of the room. A cry of terror broke from Dorian Gray's lips, and he rushed between the painter and the screen. Basil, he said, looking very pale, you must not look at it. I don't wish you to. Not look at my own work? You're not serious. Why shouldn't I look at it? Exclaimed Hallward, laughing. If you try to look at it, Basil, on my word of honor, I will never speak to you again as long as I live. I am quite serious. I don't offer any explanation, and you are not to ask for any. But remember, if you touch this screen, everything is over between us. Pause. Now, allegorically, if he is Adam and God, and Basil is God, you're not going to let me look at my own work? I'm going to hide it morbidly from you? Nobody can know about my sins? I mean, this is an interesting conversation, like so many of these are, and bears fruit. But last time we talked about this idea that maybe, because Dorian says that the picture, unequivocally says that the picture represents his soul, and Dorian might be representative of humanity, or Victorian humanity in general, maybe this says something about humanity's morbid fear of appearing negative to other people, or Victorian England's fear of appearing negative to the world. So they always project this perfect exterior image, but the interior, there's a smile of cruelty. There's negative things, and they're morbidly trying to hide those from everyone else. I think there's lots of stuff you can do with this if you want to stop and look at it literarily and try and extrapolate what Oscar Wilde might be saying, what he might be implying here. Let's see. I totally lost my spot. This happens. All right. Hallward was thunderstruck. He looked at Dorian Gray in absolute amazement. He had never seen him like this before. The lad was actually pallid with rage. His hands were clenched, and the pupils of his eyes were like discs of blue fire. He was trembling all over. Dorian, don't speak. But what is the matter? Of course I won't look at it if you don't want me to, he said rather coldly, turning on his heel and going over to the window. But really, it seems rather absurd that I shouldn't see my own work, especially as I am going to exhibit it in Paris in the autumn. I shall probably have to give it another coat of varnish before that, so I must see it someday, and why not today? Dun, dun, dun. Again, he's going to exhibit it in Paris? How do you think this is going to make Dorian feel? To exhibit it? You want to exhibit it? Exclaimed Dorian Gray, a strange sense of terror creeping over him. Was the world going to be shown his secret? Were people to gape at the mystery of his life? That was impossible. Something, he did not know what, had to be done at once. I know, I keep pausing and then talking, but let's talk some more. He's afraid that if people look at the picture, they're going to see the secret of his soul. Rewind to chapter 2. Or was it chapter 1? It might have even been the first chapter of the book. Basil refuses to display the picture. Lord Henry asks why. Basil says he's afraid in it he has shown the secret of his own soul. Intentional on Oscar Wilde's part. Yes, I don't suppose you will object to that. Georges Petit is... I can't read French, so you're just going to have to deal with my bad French pronunciations. I'm sorry, I never learned it. Georges Petit is going to collect all my best pictures for a special exposition in the Rue de Cizé, which will open the first week in October. The portrait will only be away a month. I should think you could easily spare it for that time. In fact, you are sure to be out of town. And if you keep it always behind a screen, you can't care much about it. Dorian Gray passed his hand over his forehead. There were beads of perspiration there. He felt that he was on the brink of a horrible danger. You told me a month ago that you would never exhibit it, he cried. Why have you changed your mind? You people who go in for being consistent have just as many moods as others have. The only difference is that your moods are rather meaningless. You can't have forgotten that you assured me most solemnly that nothing in the world would induce you to send it to any exposition. You told Harry exactly the same thing. He stopped suddenly. and the gleam of light came into his eyes. He remembered that Lord Henry had said to him once, half seriously and half in jest, "If you want to have a strange quarter of an hour, get Basil to tell you why he won't exhibit your picture. He told me why he wouldn't, and it was a revelation to me." Yes, perhaps Basil, too, had his secret. He would ask him and try. "Basil," he said, coming over quite close and looking him straight in the face, "we have each of us a secret. Let me know yours, and I shall tell you mine. What is your reason for refusing to exhibit the picture?" The painter shuddered in spite of himself. "Dorian, if I told you, you might like me less than you do, and you would certainly laugh at me. I could not bear your doing either of those two things. If you wish me never to look at your picture again, I am content. I have always you to look at." It's a little ironic because on some level, Dorian is the picture, right? Like he swapped with the picture. So he's like, I can't look at my picture. I can always look at you. He's kind of looking at the picture as it is. I have always you to look at. If you wish the best work I have ever done to be hidden from the world, I am satisfied. Your friendship is dearer to me than any fame or reputation. Again, Basil's such a good guy. He prefers friendship to fame and reputation. But the secret of his soul that he was afraid he showed in the picture, if you recall from chapter 2, the extrapolation is that he's gay and he loves Dorian. And he's afraid the world might guess that. And Dorian's asking him for a secret. You know, from our perspective as a reader, Dorian wants to know what Basil's secret is, and he offers his own secret in exchange. His secret, of course, is that the picture is changing. "No, Basil, you must tell me," insisted Dorian Gray. "I think I have a right to know." His feelings of terror had passed away, and curiosity had taken its place. He was determined to find out Basil Hallward's mystery. "Let us sit down, Dorian," said the painter, looking troubled. "Let us sit down. And just answer me one question. Have you noticed in the picture something curious, something that probably at first did not strike you, but that revealed itself to you suddenly?" "Basil!" cried the lad, clutching the arms of his chair with trembling hands and gazing at him with wild, startled eyes. We're going to engage dramatic irony here. This is heavily dramatically ironic. Remember, dramatic irony is when the reader knows something that the characters do not. So we're going to have cross communication here. You know, Dorian wonders if Basil knows that the picture is changing. He's hoping to get a confession about this. You can tell from the way it's being said from Basil. Basil wonders if Dorian saw that he loved him by looking at the picture. And so he wants to know what Dorian has seen. So when Basil says, answer me just one question, have you noticed in the picture something curious, something that probably at first did not strike you, but that revealed itself to you suddenly? Have you noticed that I love you? Have you noticed that I'm gay? But Dorian hears, have you noticed that the picture's changed? Has the picture altered? And when you put those two together, they're thinking different things. So what is Dorian's reaction? Dorian's reaction is, "Basil!" And he's clutching the arms of his chair with trembling hands and gazing at him with wild, startled eyes. To Basil, that probably represents, oh my God, he loves me. But from Dorian's perspective, he's excited because he thinks Basil knows what's going on with the picture itself. I see you did. Don't speak. Wait till you hear what I have to say. Dorian, from the moment I met you, your personality had the most extraordinary influence over me. I was dominated, soul, brain, and power by you. You became to me the visible incarnation of that unseen ideal whose memory haunts us artists like an exquisite dream. I worshipped you. I grew jealous of everyone to whom you spoke. I wanted to have you all to myself. I was only happy when I was with you. Oh, look at those 4 lines. I worshipped you. I grew jealous of everyone to whom you spoke. I wanted to have you all to myself. This is love, right? I mean, he's sort of making his confession. When you were away from me, you were still present in my art. Of course, I never